Very nice.
Yep.
Two of my research groups are now on their way to MMSU.
Good.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
couldn't join them.
I see.
Alvin
Yeah.
is, making waves and making an impact all over the country from north to south.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We need
From
people.
Northern.
We need
have
people
to-
like Alvin who will do things on the ground and on the sea.
Absolutely.
We have to. A lot of work to be done. Yeah.
Yep. True. And let's see how we can help move things forward. I use the words. I use the word soarward, soar and forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, Tito, we
Yes,
have having a UP system strategic planning meetings.
Mhm.
Second was yesterday, and it's all on the ground. It's to the communities through the SUCs and LGUs,
Yes.
including far down as BARM.
Yeah.
And so the current president has this council of elders who are social and political scientists with visions
see.
about how to trickle it down
He should have.
to the
He said
community.
he should instead he should create a council of doers. We have elders
Oh,
and
wonderful!
thinkers
But
and millions of them,
no,
but we lack doers.
absolutely. No. Now that's why what's fantastic. So there will be a meeting in UP ERG,
Okay.
of the system, and I told them about you and our doers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Giselle. Let's move things forward, as I said.
Okay. Giselle, we have to start now.
Yes, please.
It's almost 8:30. Yeah, and Fed, maybe you may start or begin, We have already people. EBSU, Tito, welcome.
Thank
And
you.
of course,
Alvin.
MMSU there. Okay.
Yeah.
Bigat po.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 16th of a series of PAASE for Philippine Innovation Fireside Chats. I'm Gisela Concepcion, past president of PAASE and an executive member of the National Innovation Council. And I initiated this series as a part of my advocacy for innovation and consultation with my stakeholders, which is the PAASE. I am privileged to welcome today our distinguished speaker, Neil Grimes of Plentex, Australia and the Philippines. And I would like to thank our member, Leodovico Vic Ilag, for allowing me to invite Neil to speak to us today. And in the NIAST, or National Innovation Agenda and Strategy document, one of the top 10 priorities would be food, productivity, and security, both from land and sea. And today we have a speaker who's invested his company in the coastal resources of our country, in the poorest communities of among the poorest provinces in our country, in the Visayas. Well, I'm not I'm not afraid to say this, because I think I speak the truth, and this is heroic in the sense that we are trying to uplift the communities in this region of our country. It would be Samar and Leyte. And we know that there is not only hunger in this regions of our country, but also learning poverty, and they are interconnected. And so today, I think that we will see how Plentex will help these communities deal with the problem of physical and you might say learning or mental hunger, with the training that they are undertaking in these communities as well. So at this point, I'd like to recognize the presence of some of our guests today. We'd like to recognize our PAASE members. There would be past President Ausa Rafika, who may take over co-hosting with my co-host today, because I'm on my way to the NEDA for a meeting. I would like to recognize National Scientist Lourdes Cruz, and then our members. This would be Elmer Mojica from the United States, and then Irene Villaseñor, Miren Santos, I already mentioned Vic Ilag, and then we have guests from our partner SUPS, including Eastern Visayas State University and Mariano Marcos State University, and we have the executive director of the UP ERDFI, or the Engineering Research Foundation. I would like to mention also my dear friend, NAST academician Asuncion Raimundo of Los Baños, and CAMP chair, former president Benigno Pexon, CAMP for the Coalition of Agricultural Modernization of the Philippines. So thank you so much for joining us. At this point, I would like to introduce my distinguished co-host. This is Dr. Alvin Culaba, who holds the highest distinguished position in the De La Salle University. He's a current NAST, National Academy of Science and Technology Vice President and President of the PAASE and the NRCP. And he will do the honor of introducing our guest today. Dr. Alvin, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Giselle. Stay safe on your, of course, trip to where are you going to NEDA. Anyway, thank you so much. And again, welcome for this new year 2024. This is the 16th edition of our PAASE Fireside Chat on Philippine innovation. And we begin with one of our, he emanates or he hails from Australia. He is actually in Australia right now, in Melbourne. And he will actually grace our first Fireside Chat for this year. So our distinguished speaker is Mr. Neil Grimes, a businessman who founded Mandarin Partners in 2015, where the company has its clients, the Plentex Limited, which Giselle just mentioned earlier. He has so many experience in financial management, business systems, including management, auditing, and involved with the merger of Minmetals Resources, a company controlled by the China Minmetals and the MMG Limited. Back in 2012, he became executive general manager, corporate development with Indufil Resources, a mineral project development company, copper gold project in southern Philippines. Throughout his business career, he was also an officer in the Australian Army Reserve. Most recent experiences of our distinguished speaker are with the Ravenswood Gold Business Acquisition and Integration, and the formation of 29 metals in 2021 and in 2020 and 2020. He is also the interim CEO for Global Drilling and Exploration, and also the chairman of PAASE, and an Australian mining industry focused software company. But more importantly, he is the managing director of Plentex Limited, with major operations in the country. Its subsidiaries, Plentex Philippines Incorporated and Plentex Realty Incorporated. The company is focused on aquaculture, mainly on seaweeds. And the company has actually formed a joint venture with Samar-based company Fishtech in the production of milkfish and mollubbicus tilapia fry and distribution of fish feeds in the eastern Visayas seaboard. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are really honored and grateful to have for this first PAASE Fireside Chat series on Philippine innovation, Mr. Neil Grimes. Mr. Neil Grimes, the floor is yours. Good morning.
Many thanks, Alvin, for that very long-winded introduction. I've had quite an association with the Philippines now for more than 15 years, and enjoy working with Filipinos and working in the Philippines, and I see enormous opportunity, particularly in the areas in which we're investing, which is in Leyte and Western Samar, for a whole bunch of reasons, including beautiful water for growing fish in the sea, access to global transport networks through shipping and through airlines and air transport, access to an educated population down there, and a population that requires and would love the opportunity to have more work and more access to food in their markets. So we think it's the right place to be. Perhaps if we can show the presentation now, I can start that for you, and then we can have a bit of a chat afterwards. But it's an absolute honour to be invited to speak today, and I thank our good friend Vic for the opportunity through his connections at PAASE. All right, so sharing my screen. Okay, here it is. Is that presentation now visible?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Well, that's good news, TJ. That's what I'm trying to be.
Yes. Thank you.
And look, if you don't understand my deeply Australian accent, please pull me up and I'll correct myself. That leading photo, by the way, is Gintarkan Island, just near Villarreal in Western Samar, and it's on that island that we have our fish hatchery, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. But you can see there the expanse of water available for aquaculture, and having a hatchery in a very pristine environment such as that is a real bonus for us. So let me get started. So how we see things is that there is a problem of feeding a rapidly growing world population with nutritious food and contributing to climate solutions for sustainable global food security. We're working on providing quantity and quality of product and meeting the balance of environmental and social need. And these are not new problems, but they're problems that are growing. And in the Philippines, as an example, you see the difference between those who have and those who don't have as much. And what these projects will do is help close that gap. So in our terms, what we're saying is that the sustainable natural aquaculture is a really good way of moving forward to provide food for today and tomorrow, and helping develop technology to reduce food production's impact on the environment and provide lasting benefits to communities. And you can see there the images that we're involved in. We've got, fish production, seaweed production for a number of reasons, growing of a particular breed of tilapia, which we're really encouraged by, creating protein-enhanced stock and aquafeeds, and these are all part of our business strategy. So our company, Plentex, has been around for a long time, but since 2011, we've focused on developing technologies for aquaculture, food production, animal feeds, and technology around applications for seaweeds in industry, medical research, and agriculture. So these things are all under our umbrella in our entire strategic package. We have a number of technology partnerships and licenses in the Philippines and within Australia, and that gives us a pretty unique position to group these things together and develop our long-term sustainable future business. We've got land and property holdings already in the Philippines, which is over 120 million pesos worth. We intend to convert that into our project base and then to develop the projects in aquaculture and then seaweeds as well. So our revenue model is actually quite simple. We intend to grow seaweeds, and the primary species we intend to grow is Asparagopsis. This is a seaweed which grows naturally in tropical waters, and there are properties within the Asparagopsis seaweed which are suitable for supplements in cattle farming, which will reduce the amount of methane emission from cattle belching and doing other emissions, and it allows for quite an impact in reducing cattle farming's methane emission total. We also have another species of Halimenia seaweed, which we've been working closely with UP Diliman on, and the Marine Science Institute, for industrial ingredient extracts and medical research applications. And this is highly valuable material, and the work that's been done with MSI and UP is groundbreaking in terms of how to grow this material, and we need to convert that into industrial scale. In the fish production area, we're already producing milkfish at our Fish Tech joint venture in Samar. We intend to grow, and we have been growing freshwater tilapia for some time in an onshore freshwater dam that we built in North Tacloban. We also have a saltwater species that we're intending to develop of tilapia, which we'll talk about some more. Barramundi, which most of you in Asia call sea bass, is a very popular fish down here in Australia. It tends to grow in northern Australia naturally, but it's also being farmed in pretty large quantities. We intend to grow these fish in onshore ponds up until a stage where they're ready for grow out in sea cages, and we intend to do that in areas of water quite close to our hatchery in those beautiful waters of the San Juanico Strait adjacent to Villarreal. We also have fry and fingerling sales. Now, we intend to develop local small-scale farmers by assisting them with access to quality fry and fingerlings and also feed. And we'll deliver this to them by boat. We know most of them are on the coast or very close to the coast, and we intend to build that business up so that we're the go-to group in the Visayas for having fry and fingerlings delivered to sites, so that the smaller scale farmers don't need to have broodstock. And we also deliver formulated feeds so that they can grow their fish more efficiently and healthy results, so that reduce mortality and increase production outcome. The feed production that we intend to commercialise is a proprietary product called Pro NK. It's a protein enhanced animal feed. My apologies. And it's an all-natural product made from waste sweet potato or cassava, and it has the potential to replace large-scale soybean and other feed imports. And this is a fungal protein enhancement technology that we've developed with Tarlac Agricultural University and UP Visayas. And this technology is very simple, but very effective. It can increase protein grades in these sweet potato and cassavas from the high single percent protein percentages up to 40+%, with coincident results of providing health impacts, positive health effects for prawns and fish in test work. So that's very interesting. The industrial extract manufacture is to take the Halaminia and the Asparagopsis and produce the extracts ready for feed and for industrial units. So if we look at world agriculture for a few minutes, on the left-hand side at the top there, you can see a pie chart. Asia is actually responsible now for about 80 million tonnes of aquaculture production already. You can see that the rest of the world does almost not even a tenth of that. So Asia is the centre for world aquaculture, and so we're in the right place to do this. The bar chart in the centre shows that the increase in seafood consumption per person around the globe since the 1960s has more than doubled. And so there is a need for fish producers or fish farmers or fish catchers, if you like, fishing industry to meet that need. And increasingly, that's going to come from aquaculture rather than wild catch. Down the left-hand bottom corner, you've got world aquaculture production since 2020, which is 87.5 million tonnes, projected to be another 25% higher by 2030. So, the world has hungry tummies, more people every week, and we need to feed them, and aquaculture seems to be a very good way of doing that. The chart on the right is aquaculture in the Philippines. You can see there that across all sectors from 2017, it's almost been flat production across the top there. Aquaculture itself has also almost been flat production. So there's been a sort of a stagnation of the industry. But marine fish cage, this one highlighted in red here, has gone from 106 to 170,000 tonnes. So that's a 70% increase in that time. So this is where the future of the industry is. And the other sector we're interested in, of course, is seaweed, and that's actually gone down in that 5-year period. So we're confident that if we can produce the volumes that we intend to produce, the market is most definitely there to take that production on board. Our target markets, using Philippines as our base, of course, includes the Philippines domestic market. So local communities as well as provinces throughout the Philippines. We then look at Hong Kong and Taiwan as very nearby export markets. Japan is also close by, and there is Malaysia and Indonesia and Singapore. All of these places have extensive need for fish and seafood, and we believe that our products can most certainly be marketed into those potential destinations with absolutely elastic markets. We don't need to be afraid of reducing the prices or affecting market demand by having additional supply. It's going to be very, very readily absorbed. And of course, Australia is also a seafood destination. In fact, at our Christmases here in Australia, seafood is food of choice, from prawns to fish and everything else in between. So we see Australia as a longer term export market, but initially focus on Philippines, domestic, and close by Southeast Asia. In terms of competitive analysis, we're up against other producers, and we think these are the key elements that are required for successful production. We are constructing our business and building our plans and setting ourselves to be successful in all of these things, and we have those factors already established. Small-scale fish farms, it's really not easy for me to say one way or the other whether they're well prepared or otherwise, except when it comes to R&D and technology future. Environment and climate friendly, you could argue that yes, they are, because they're small scale and they're using local resources, but equally they don't have a plan for reducing climate impacts or things of that nature. However, in our plan, by delivering quality fry and fingerlings and improved feeds, we're pretty confident we can assist small-scale fish farms in our area to be more productive and more reliable with their product. So that helps them with livelihood, also helps them get product to market that's better for the market as well. Commercial fish farms, we're pretty confident that they have most of the aspects that we're indicating well and truly established. I'm really not able to comment on their position with partnerships, technology, or environmental impact, but we're pretty confident that these people are doing something about that. Very few companies these days will be lax in these areas because the risk of not doing the right thing is increasing. Imports, on the other hand, you have to have a sound business plan to get through the hoops to bring your product into market within the Philippines. We don't know what their research is in overseas bases for production. We're pretty sure that to be in the import market, you've got an experienced team, you've got good partnerships to get through to the market from offshore. But beyond that, I really can't comment. But in contrast, and we know that with Plentex, our business plan is strong. We are well researched. We've got a very good team on board and good connections in the Philippines, including our directors, to make that happen. Our partnerships are building all the time, and we've got signed up engagement letters with universities and institutions across the board. Our locations we know are good. They're in underdeveloped locations, better quality water, better quality situations. We're putting a lot of time into R&D, developing technologies for fish and feeds and extracting processes, and everything we do is environmental and climate sensitive because we want our local communities to benefit from what we do, not to have any negative effects, and that includes their livelihood and opportunity. Our proposition is high quality food from the sea, feeding the world. It's a pretty grand statement, but that's the intent. Produce food that the growing population in the world is going to need. We are developing new technologies to grow specific seaweeds in nature, not in a lab. We want to grow it in open water. We want to support these processes with good, sound technology, climate and medical technology opportunities. We know that we're low upfront capital costs, and we are already on the pathway to revenue with our Fish Tech joint venture in Northern Samar. Our feeds for animal agriculture, we believe it's going to be low cost. We know it's going to be low cost. We know it's high protein. We know it's nutritional, and it has medicinal benefits as well. It's utilising waste, which is important, and I think also it's going to be import replacing. which has positive climate and societal benefits. All the technologies we use are climate enhancing, including, of course, the Asparagopsis extract for methane reduction in cattle. And we will be employing locally. As Giselle and Alvin mentioned at the beginning of this, we intend to employ locally. We will train people to do the jobs that are available. And we've been employing locally now for about 9 years in and around Tacloban in our building projects and also other opportunities that we've had available. So we think that this is a good pathway to providing a good product that people need, investing in the technologies that are going to develop and deliver new potential that's not up until now available, provide the feeds and provide the livelihoods. Our list of partnerships is pretty extensive. We've got UP Visayas, we've got the MSI at UP Diliman, we've got UP Diliman, of course, Tarlac Agriculture University, and SARDI, which is the South Australian Research and Development Institute, very good in fish farming and aquaculture generally. And a company I haven't mentioned so far, which is Mainstream Aquaculture, which is a Melbourne-based company which grows barramundi, fish and fry and fingerlings. And that is the company through which we would buy our fry and fingerlings and fly them into Tacloban and use them as the feedstock for our barramundi producing activities. So we think our partnerships are strong. We've got good relationships with all these organisations, and so far the research work that's been done is delivering real opportunity for us to commercialise, and that's what we intend to do. A growth roadmap. These are figures from our most recent business planning. The numbers on the side are in fry and fingerling numbers. They're not kilos. Aquafeed distribution, however, is in kilograms. So we think that starting small in 2024, building our footprint, getting our processes right, making sure our product quality is good and our safety procedures are in place, we'll be able to grow pretty quickly. And by supporting our local communities and the what some would see as competitors, the small-scale fish farmers, we think we're actually going to be having a broader effect in positive sense across the place. So if we have a look on the right-hand side chart, you can see that fish, seaweeds and feeds, we've got Melobicus market size. Now, Melobicus is the saltwater strain of tilapia. This has been specially bred and with the assistance of BFAR, and we have a former BFAR director in Hiladora on our board in the Philippines. We intend to get that Melobicus saltwater tilapia into the market with a completely new product, and we think it'll go very, very well because it's a white, clean, neatly meated fish, which has a much better taste than a muddy tilapia coming out of a dirty pond. So we think that's going to be very successful. The barramundi, as I mentioned, we think that'll be very successful. The Asparagopsis seaweeds, that'll take some time for us to generate sufficient quantities of that. But while we're doing that, we'll also be developing our extraction processes. Halamina, the same. And Pro NK, we need to take that from lab and small scale quality production to industrial scale. So that's going to take quite a bit of effort to do, but we know it's going to be a game changer in the feeds market. So what's our go-to-market strategy? Our go-to-market strategy is leveraging our existing relationships and enhancing those relationships. Quick production and fast revenue is where we're heading. We want to build the on-water sales business and provide that local support to small-scale farmers in Western Samar and Leyte. We'll prepare our Gintarkan Island production base to get the Melobicus and the barramundi underway, establishing the in-water trials for seaweed production with Asparagopsis as the first species we take to water, because we think that the license we have to get that into the methane reduction for cattle farming is actually a leading product for us. We'll complete the development study for Pro NK production, and we'll start with cassava in the Philippines. And then once that's been proven, we'll move that same tech down into Australia for waste product from sweet potato. And we'll then move from the hatchery and the on-land tanks into sea cage operations for the Molobicus and the Barramundi, and that's when we'll be able to really ramp up production. Our milestones, in the next couple of months, we'll complete our fundraising. We're after about 4 million Aussie to do that. So if we work that out, that's about 130 million pesos. By the end of 2024, we'll complete the stage 1 expansion for Fish Tech joint venture, which is more onshore ponds and getting that on-water delivery mechanism for fish and fry and fingerlings and feeds out there into the market. Have the Gintakan Island operations ready. Then in 26, we'll complete the stage 2 of the SJV expansion and go into sea cage operations. And then by the end of 26, we'll be in full-scale operation across the board. This is a very busy slide. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but our key operators are Peter Stretter, who's our chairman, a long career in many companies in Australia and really founded Plentex some time ago. Mike McMahon, who's been in the Philippines for a very long time now. He actually was operating a aquaculture fish farming operation just before Typhoon Yolanda, but he's a very determined man and has stayed on and is helping us build the business in the Philippines and will continue to do so. And then one of your esteemed colleagues, Vic Elag, is also on our board, and we're very, very lucky to have him involved because he, at least, not least of which is his fabulous knowledge and experience, but he has great connections with people like your good selves. The funding need is very simply detailed here, 4.75 million Australian to get everything up and running inside the next year. There's a lot of detail there, so I'll let you just have a quick browse. But essentially, we're offering shares in the company, which will be preference shares with a commercial coupon rate. They'll be non-voting, and they will be convertible, so that if in the future, rather than having your capital returned, you wanted to become a long-term shareholder, that option will be available to investors. But you can see that when we say low capital, we're really talking quite low capital, and we know that this will be sufficient to get us into production across the board, and having our own revenues start delivering in 2024, that will mean that we're enhancing our business on the way through. So this is well thought out strategy and ready to go. So our plan is for an initial public offering, so to list the company within 2 years on either the ASX, Australian Stock Exchange in Australia, or the AIM in the UK or London. We've got the fact that we were formally listed in 2015. We are still a public unlisted company now, but we're fully registered with all the relevant authorities in Australia, and we already have in excess of 3,000 shareholders. So we just need to convert that shareholder base and bring new shareholders in to create the capital we need. The top 20 shareholders already control nearly 2/3 of the company, and we will be offering investment opportunities to our existing shareholders primarily, and additional shareholders also. So our journey is well planned. We have an established base. We have the right people involved to be part of this, and we know that we can deliver on the ground for our shareholders, for our local communities, and also for the local government units in and around our projects. And we think we're going to have a very positive outcome from all of that. So that concludes my presentation. I thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to any questions you might have and a robust discussion about the way forward. Many thanks.
Thank you, Neil. I've been asked by both Alvin and Giselle to help out, as both of them are either in transit or unstable internet. But thank you very much for presenting a very sound and robust plan, and
Thank you.
clearly all the way down to the investment and proceeds utilization, which I think most of our PAASE members can learn from. This is what it takes to launch a business, guys. Having been an entrepreneur for 17 years in the US and successfully exited 2 businesses, I kind of appreciate what you've done here for the Philippines.
Thank you.
We were earlier supporters of your Halamea with National Scientist Trono, which
Yep.
is also a co-member of the National Academy. I was part of the USAID Stride project, and clearly I saw the potential, except that, of course, it has a very long gestation and development period, as I can see that still in the process of actually commercializing that. My start-off question, probably since I'm already on deck, would be more on the regulatory front, because it looks like you are very well entrenched in the technology and the partnerships, and you have a good team. My biggest concern has always been with the technologies coming out of the Philippines, may it be in my health area. I'm a medical device developer. It's always been the regulatory front that has kind of been the biggest hurdle, besides, of course, raising capital and getting good people. But those are secondary if you can't launch your product in the market without having regulatory compliance. So my question is, in the 5 areas of businesses that you've discussed, from feeds to fish to, I know you do have Hill for the BFAR, but which aspect of regulatory are you most concerned with and most aggressive with, having none? And of course, I'd like to entertain the potential of having a harmonized regulatory now in ASEAN, being able to get an approval probably in Australia for some of these, if you have already, to be brought to the Philippines to accelerate the regulatory process for ASEAN. How would you characterize your current hurdles in getting to launch your products, as you not kind of discussed it? I saw the activities and the commercialization plan, but I'm a little bit at a loss in seeing where the regulatory hurdles will. I know Larry, I think, not Larry, Vic is here. Larry's the brother. Vic is here to probably assist you on that one. And he's your technical guy, but definitely that's one of my concerns, especially in doing development investments. And I also can see that you've been in the Philippines with Indophil, very close to the Alcantara group, also on system. And definitely you have a sort of a parallel effort from what they're already doing for 30 to 40 years in Sarangani. But definitely, let's start with the regulatory front, and I'll probably let others ask you a more benign question. Thank you.
Well, thanks for handing me the hard one first. Look, regulatory impacts are extensive. I think everybody in the room understands that. For our previous project, we were aiming to produce a feed, a rice and cassava food production organisation. We had registered with BOI for that project, and we found that the BOI process was pretty arduous. We also find that any interactions with your banking organisations in the Philippines are pretty arduous too, and not always successful. Look, the DNR has been reasonably cooperative with what we've been proposing, and with our partnerships with major research and university organisations, we think that we've got sufficient information to be able to satisfy regulators. Certainly, the land zoning and that kind of thing we're reasonably comfortable with local government units. And the fishery, the hatchery that we have in Gentakan Island near Villarreal was a facility built by BFAR and the European Union. So those sorts of things are already on the ground, if you like. They're already pre-understood. The regulators approved them once before. So now we're talking about approving a new plan. Growing seaweed is something that's already done in the Philippines. So we're looking for areas to do that rather than bringing some, special new technology to the bureaus for them to learn about. We're just seeking access to grow the stuff, and we're not going to do anything that's environmentally damaging there. So we're reasonably comfortable about that. And again, with Pro NK as an example, that is a fully natural process. There's no chemicals involved. There's no waste discharges. There's no tailing storages or waste product generated from any of these things. So we're reasonably comfortable that the regulators will see that it's a benign and positive business process. The treatment processes and the manufacturing process are also almost no environmental impact, except perhaps using water. And we intend to harvest local water from rainfall and that sort of thing, and also use wherever possible, solar or renewable energies. So we think that we've got the right approach to it. We haven't gone into detailed discussions with regulators to get ECCs or that kind of thing at this point. Once we've got our funding secured, we'll do that. But we're reasonably comfortable that what we're putting to the market putting to the regulators is understandable and pretty uncontentious.
No, thank you for a very comprehensive assessment of, including, of course, the land use. But I'm really more concerned, Neil, on the product regulatory aspect. I'll take a crack at it, having been familiar with your Halamea project with Dr. Trono. If I were to bring that to Australia, or even your Arabidopsis project for methane reducing feeds for cattle in Australia, what would it take for an approval process in Australia for such use?
Okay, well, there are some already made examples. There's a company called Sea Forest, which already is generating they're growing the seaweed down in Tasmania. That's the cold water variety of the Asparagopsis. So we also have a license from an Australian organisation called Future Feeds to grow this stuff. So this is technology being developed in Australia to some extent. The license we have is from Future Feeds for the Asia Pacific, and with people like Sea Forest already doing this, the regulators themselves are pretty comfortable with the processes, and as long as we can satisfy their micro requirements about location and that sort of thing, it would be reasonably foreseeable to get licenses within a realistic period.
Okay, so you do have a predicate device. I'm familiar with the US FDA, having had 7 approved products in the US FDA. So I kind of always look for a predicate to have a pathway.
Well, Vic has been extremely helpful too in another branch of the Plentex group called Xerion. Vic has had licensed products for skincare, fungal nail and skin protection products in Australia. So they're already on the market in Australia. So we've been through the hoops of having those products regulated and approved for sale in Australia. And the processes to have them approved in the US were initiated some time ago. So, Vic can provide more detail on that. If he wasn't in a car in the traffic, he'd probably be happy to speak right now.
I think it is
but he's very familiar with those processes and has been successful with them in at least Australia for medical or dermaceutical products, and was attempting the process in the FDA as well. So, we're aware of the rigor that's required, and with my mining experience, I'm also aware of the rigors that are applied by DNR for that as well. In particular, the Tampakan project had a very extensive set of studies to do with environmental impact, social impact, the final mine rehabilitation. All of those things I'm very familiar with, so I know what the expectations are. And I'm also very aware that the regulators need to be brought along to understand what's happening. You can't just turn up with an application form and expect it to be yes. So
Correct.
we're realistic about it, and we know we've got to be present and visible and be very patient to explain things and aid the understanding of the regulators so that they can really feel confident about what we're doing.
Yep, definitely. And of course, having good relations with the local government, especially your government.
Yes, absolutely right. They're the
And
first
again,
group.
yeah, it's Cotabato is very notorious for.
Well, we're not sure whether it's a blessing or a curse just now, but the president's family is very prominent in our local area.
Correct.
So
Yes.
we hope it's a blessing.
Yes, it is a blessing. Actually, I can tell you that they're looking at developing Leyte and Samar aggressively. I can have a
Good.
separate conversation with some familiar for some of those deals that's on deck right now. But I'll let other people now to ask the more scientific and probably more practical. I see Tito Aliga. Have any questions, Tito or Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Al. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to comment that I can see that the approach of Neil, which is what I always talk about, what I call location specific, Neil, that we don't involve national. What you have done is gone to the grassroots, local government, and let your proof of concept deliver results. National is irrelevant in this case. And of course, you have to take care of that too, but with your local partners and you're involving the local state universities and HEIs, I think that's a very important element in the success of your effort. So you are not
many thanks. Many
you are not
thanks.
only
The national groups always seem to want to be involved and in many cases want to do the final sign-offs. But having walked through the process and built that local support, I think that's going to be very beneficial to us.
Yes, I agree. And that's what I always try to say, that the things that if we really want to hit the ground, we must be location specific. We find a community that supports your idea, and you have your technology, you involve your local academic and research institutions, and it's a go. Otherwise, if you go to national, not in our lifetime.
Yeah, local communities, as we know, tend to respond negatively to things that are imposed upon them. They want to be part of the consideration and part of the outcome. So that's very much how we go about it.
So that's my comment, Neil. So again,
Okay,
congratulations for getting
Many
things
thanks.
planted on the ground in the sea.
Many
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you, Tito. Tito is our past president in the UP Engineering Research Development Foundation, NEO, that has been very aggressive in supporting our technology transfer and business development in the UP system. And they're always on the lookout on projects that they can support. And Tito has been a proponent for decades of that, having been part of SGB in the earlier part of his career before he retired. So those are all point well taken, Tito. Again,
Thank you, Al.
I think Chato, who's now the other president of ERDP, is going to go after you. This is a seniority train now that's coming at you. So go ahead, Chato.
It's President's Day.
Yes.
All President's Day.
Ex-President.
Ex-president.
Thank you so much, Al, and thank you, Neil, for an excellent presentation. Actually, I'm actually in San Francisco, and I used to be president of the UP Engineering Research and Development Foundation, and now an advisor, and now I'm a UP Alumni Association of San Francisco president. So there are many things that I'm doing, thinking about.
Yes.
There are 4 E's that we are helping the Alumni Association, and 2 of them is entrepreneurship and employment. And I see this project very fits that the thing. Number 1, how much is your minimum investment that you require? Number 2, I look at milkfish in San Francisco or in US. This is another market for the milkfish. And we have a lot of those. I think all of them are coming from the Philippines.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how we can, expand that or whatever, on the marketing side. On the Philippines side, how can we help the giving employment to the poor and marginalized communities? And how can you, facilitate something like that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, thank you for all of that. Milkfish is really the primary product of the Fish Tech joint venture. Another Neil Pantsy is the fellow running that. So we've joint ventured with him. He already has fish ponds in production, but he's really just marketing locally. And that's basically an artifact of production volume and investment in order to process and then on sell. I'm very aware through, as you mentioned earlier, the Olsen family, their investments with Sarangani Bay Fish Farms. They've been very successful. They market internationally in everywhere that a Filipino wants to buy a milkfish. And you know that model you know is very much in my mind when I talk about being able to get the product to where the people who want to eat it are. I've been to their processing facilities in the past, and I've seen the deboning organisations and the very, very well run fish pond arrangements. So I've got a model in my head of how to do it right. And I think there is potential for it to expand to the US. It's still Pacific, it's just a bit further away. So we're not saying no to any market, but the immediate focus is going to be the local Asian region and then Australia. And I think once we've got that far, all bets are open. Anywhere there's a demand pull for that kind of product, we can probably look to move in that direction. As far as the minimum investment, I think, and someone will jump on me here if I'm wrong, it's about 10,000 Australian is what we're looking for as a minimum investment. So it's not significant if you're a sophisticated investor, but we also want to attract our existing shareholders into that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
How about bringing this technology or your activities along the poor villages, or improving employment for the poor? Is that something in your radar?
It's not just something on the radar. It's what we want to do. Our area there in Gintakan Island is almost no employment. They are subsistence fisher folk, pretty much. When you go to the mainland near Villarreal, there's more farming around, but it's not of any scale, and the employment opportunities are fairly limited. So we will be hiring locally, experienced fisher people. We'll be looking for boat people to run the boats, not immigrants. We'll be looking for all kinds of local trades and skills, from mechanics to people who want to do the fish collection and weighing and laboratory techs and all that sort of stuff. So where we can hire and train locally, that's exactly what we'll do. Where we need to find specialist skills, like for example laboratory technicians or that kind of thing, we'll look at the Versailles region first. And we intend to very much invest in our communities by providing livelihood opportunity and training.
And what are you doing with the University of Tarlac, since it's in Luzon?
Yeah, Tarlac Agricultural University is really along the Pro-NK technology. So doing the fermentation processes involved with the cassava and the sweet potato product to produce Pro-NK. So that's where they've been involved, and they've been very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chato. Yes, I visited Tarlac a couple of years ago, and I really saw their sweet potato production and wanting to help out, and especially for the other areas of Tarlac and Pangasinan for increased production. So I'm really encouraged about your work on Pro-NK, and clearly that's one avenue where you can also increase economic activity in parts of Tarlac and Pangasinan to couple with your fisheries activity. And I've also heard about the Tacloban effort of Mr. McNahan, which I think Vic presented to us as well on the coconut front. So really, Chato, I mean, Plentex is very much into rural development, if you ask me. And I would encourage looking at them closely in terms of specifics, especially if you have particular requirements from your investment group to monitor and evaluate their rural employment impact from a starting very low base in Samar and Leyte, which is second to Barm. I think that area is probably in the unfortunately, it's not something we should brag about, but really that needs the most help. Even after Tacloban, the governor mentioned that after Yolanda or Haiyan, almost 10,000 of their professional people left Leyte, and never, a lot of them never came back.
Not coming back,
Yeah, so they need something to come back to. Having industries and employment would be definitely a must for them to consider coming back. So I think what Plentex is doing in Samar, in the western side of Samar, is equally very, I wouldn't call it destitute, but very needing in industry. I think it's a good idea to really invest, as well as bring in more capital supporters, but with a more social eye for it, which I know that's what the Philippines and your group in San Francisco are looking for. What's the social impact rather than just economic impact? And I think, I'm sure Neil will have a very good base to show that they'll be employing and increasing economic activity in that area. So I hope something works out for both of you in that regards. But definitely, I always compliment Neil, because we've funded them early on in the Alamea project as early as 2014, now 10 years ago. And it has yet to reach the actual commercialization and production stage, which was initially done in Calatagan. But now I'm glad that you're in Leyte, which is more needing of that that economic input.
And look, COVID's got in the way of our plans for
Yes.
maybe 2 or 3 years, and you know that's halted so much. We were ready to go in 2019-20, and of course it just wasn't possible. But we're back on the track now. We think we're ready to go with all that stuff, and our local communities are vital to this. You know, they've got to support us being there, and if we provide the right opportunities for their people to be involved with the project and learn the skills and get the opportunities, you know, that's going to strengthen the connection, and we think it's going to improve the whole thing.
Perfect. Thank you, Neil. I think
Great.
Giselle
Thank you.
cannot resist jumping into the discussion now. Go, Giselle.
Thanks, Al. I reached my destination and I'm waiting for the meeting to start here. Anyway, Neil, thanks for that presentation and for all of our comments, chatos as well. Thank you. I'd like to know, Neil, if you are doing the coastal aquaculture following the recommended ratio of retaining the mangroves or growing mangroves versus aquacultures of various kinds in the land ratio of 4:1, which is science-based. So there's publications in this. And this is very critical in the Leyte and Samar areas, because we know that this is where our typhoons and storm surges hit the country. That's my question.
Okay, so yes, mangroves do provide a lot of coastal protection. We're aware of that. It's not just in the Philippines. It's also Northern Australia, where you may have seen that we've had cyclones recently. We often have some pretty wild times in the north of Australia, and yeah, mangroves are very much part of the shoreline protection, and you know, they help mitigate the biggest shocks of major weather systems. The FishTech joint venture already has some onshore ponds in northwestern Samar, up near Santa Rita. Those ponds will be extended. They are coastal. They are inland of mangrove areas, and where the new ponds intend to be expanded, they're adjacent to the mangroves, but we'll be retaining the mangrove area for coastal protection. We do want access to the water, but we won't be taking all the trees out to get that. So we're very aware of the need to maintain those mangrove forests and keep them as a protection for our own facilities, if not for the general coastal benefit. So it's for both purposes, and we'll be designing it sensitively to allow for coastal tidal surges and storm events, and make sure that the coastal situation is not made worse by our development. In fact, our development enhances that in a way that protects our facilities and doesn't disturb the coastal fringe.
Thanks for that, Neil. I'm surprised that Alvin, our other host, is not in the meeting.
He called me, Giselle. His internet is unstable in LaSalle
Yeah,
Yes.
he lost his connection. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's from Leyte, and
Leyte.
our PAASE activities as well as NAST activities are actually led by him in Tacloban. And we actually have program that's
Si Joe Almonte.
or integrative to try to control flooding, which is of course related to storm surges in late. So Alvin with EVSU, his alma mater, and his current affiliation, De La Salle, they are actually training scientists to monitor the flooding. And we brought in one of our experts. This is Georgine Primavera, who is our foremost expert on mangrove plantings. And we surveyed the areas in Tacloban and Palo and identified the mangrove areas as well as the beach forests, which would also be part of our coastal green belts. So in fact, Georgine has a nursery in Iloilo where she is growing the seedlings and plantings of the right flora that are suitable for mangroves and beach forests. So I think it would be great to collaborate with Alvin, the PASE and the NAS teams, and also in particular with Georgine Primavera. Thank you.
Many thanks for those suggestions. I'm sure through Vic's connections we'll be able to contact those people and have a discussion.
Okay.
If I may add, Al.
Yeah, go ahead, Tito. I mean,
I remember now that last month or November we had a presenter who Agritectura, who was also in this business of aquaculture. Maybe I hope I can't remember his name now, but maybe the opportunities for collaboration with Neil might be good. Thank you.
Ran Quijano is also a contact of Vic Ilag. So Vic Ilag is like a pivotal person, a linchpin here. So
he's a good connector.
Yeah,
good
Vic,
connector. Yes.
yeah, the ball is in your hands, Vic.
I can see him running down the right wing now, just taking the ball.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yep, definitely being able to demonstrate your proof of concept and initial product line, and of course the completing the supply chain. Clearly, to me, the learnings of Alsons in Sarangani Bay, Neil, comes to mind. I visited their facility actually in Sarangani 10 years ago. I saw their cold storage, their deboning. They're so efficient, and having the river, 350 hectares of pristine water supplied river brackish water for milkfish is really kind of state of the art, if you ask me. And
they're a very good example. I agree.
Yeah, and there's like who you want to be when you grow up.
Yes. I'll give Nick a call.
I saw Nick not so long ago, and he's 75th now. He's in the 80th already. So
oh my God.
Definitely, and we're good friends with Gabby and the daughter Anna. So clearly, that's always been my, for lack of better, benchmarks in terms of aquaculture in the Philippines and what it can be and what it should be. But the other aspect of technology that Giselle touched definitely is the collaborations with the local universities. I was actually just been acquainted with an owner of a school in Catbalogan. I don't know how far are you from Catbalogan?
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, that's where they are also in need of potentially industry partnerships, because as part of Stride for 10 years, that's always been our mantra of increasing industry academic partnerships. And really, to me, those are the types of relationships that are mutually beneficial, because again, the government can a mandate to advance academia, and they want to help industry, but the only way they can do that is to funnel money to academia. So
Yeah.
and I think that's probably best model that we've used also with Stride. We've funded mostly 66 SUCs to amount of 600 million over the 10 years that the USAID Stride project
It's a
was
significant
funded.
investment.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, we only had one in Samar on war on worms on helminthiasis or helmintho, the worm coming from cow dung that's grown by snails. It's a very
Oh.
indirect problem.
It
Schistomiasis.
sounds fabulous.
Yeah, schistomiasis, I think is the there are two projects that we funded through UP Manila at that time. That's why we had to go to Samar for those projects, which actually what caught the eye of the USAID office in Washington and asked the doctor from UP Manila to present in DC for such a project, which was a one-off project for us, but it was very successful in terms of satisfying our funding agency, USAID at that time. But definitely the only aspect that I wanted to check also, because I'm also helping a USAID project on advanced manufacturing and Industry 4.0. And is there a need for you to train in advanced manufacturing processes in your current efforts in the next 3 years? Because if it is,
so look, with regard to the fish farming, I think that will be beneficial to have that fairly low tech, and just to focus on product quality.
what I think.
With regard to Pro NK though, we do have to commercialize or industrial scale up the process from fermentation in plastic bags to solid state fermentation to produce the feedstock. We will then have to pelletize that. So there's the fermentation process, solid state, that we have to get right. Then there's secondly, we've got to be able to dry that product to be able to pelletize it. Then we've got to be able to pelletize it correctly and maintain the product integrity. So there are some advanced manufacturing techniques there we will have to employ to make sure that we get a reliable and consistent product to the customer. We'll also have to have a laboratory in there, of course, to make sure that we've got the right fermentation processes occurring at the right rate, pressures, temperatures, all that sort of good gear, so that we have the right nutrient combination in the final product. So we're going to have to not only produce volumes of this stuff, but we're going to have to do it in a manufacturing approach rather than a small scale backyard kind of deal. So yes, there is some scope for advanced manufacturing, and it will start with solid state fermentation through to pelletization and packaging.
Okay, thank you for going to that detail, because clearly to me, one avenue for you to exhaust is the existing Carwin grants, which is the initial piloted program of USAID Stride for academic industry. We call it Aguila at that time. I think that was, but now Carwin is the version of DOST, and I think it will do you good to do the pilot scale fermentation and pelletizing interlock, because clearly DOST is on the eye of trying to develop that area as well. But if your plans, of course, is event, and also the sweet potato producers are already around that area in terms of the waste that they use. And then eventually, of course, you do your full production later, wherever you want it to be, maybe in summer or later. But clearly, that's one avenue that you can accelerate the manufacturing. I know of UPLB, we're trying to scale up a 2,000 liter production now to 20,000 liter, and we're still in the process of identifying partners within the group to do such big scale fermentation for some of our biofertilizers. But clearly you can ride on to that wave of us in UP wanting to put up pilot scale up capability. So definitely talk.
Al.
Yes.
Yes, going to mention UPLB, where Vic Ilag is actually based, and I think he will be or is an affiliate professor or researcher in UPLB. And yes, at
Yes.
Biotech, we know
Yeah,
that they're
yeah.
pelletizing and capsule making equipment. So you could prototype these things there, Neil. And yeah, you have the fermentation capability in biotech. It's the same thing that one of our star biotechnologists, her name is Nelly Agangan, and she's actually increased her production of mycovam. And she has a version of it called mycocap, so that the mycorrhizae biofertilizer, microfungi fertilizer, can be transported and exported more conveniently. So yes, that's the way to go. Al and Neil and
Definitely. Yeah, we've been working, Giselle, for Michael Vam and Nelly's project for 10 years now. The scale now is really being challenged. Actually, the 2,000 to 5,000 liters no longer adequate with the scales that they're looking at. We do have new partnerships that we just signed on last year. They're looking at 100,000 liter kind of production already, and clearly that's outside of the purview of biotech, but definitely having a private institution to get the technology passed on to them so they can scale up is a model that is being promoted aggressively in UPLB. And there's also about 14 spin-off technologies out of LB in the last 3 years that we've been ushering at UP System Tech Transfer Business Development Office. And very, very aggressive in that area. So I think, Neil, definitely now is a better time to start looking for would-be partners in that regards as well, and utilize an existing facility for some of your products. I think starting with the Pro NK, because there is PECM, which is a protein-enriched copramil version, which we're marketing towards the feeds business as well. So again, like a one-stop shop for car dealers. They're all in the same spot in town. You might as well put them all in a UPLB.
Yeah, I need to say some things, right? Because after this, I have to leave and we have to end.
Yes.
And it has to do with the innovation value chain. Okay. First of all, if it's Protein K, then it's UP Diliman that has the proteomics and metabolomics mass spectrometry analysis facilities. So we have our expertises in the different campuses, and we have the trained experienced experts in UP Diliman for this kind of analysis, which I think would add great value to your product. Okay, because it could tell you what amino acids or what peptides or what proteins are present in your product. Okay, but anyway, I wanted to say that we know the technology readiness levels from 1 to 10, right? And Innovation Council has this innovation fund that would probably zero in on the technology readiness levels 5 to 7 as a source of funding. We do not know yet what's the unit source of funding. So that will probably be announced in the first or second quarter of this year. But then there are the other higher levels. And in fact, I think Vic has already, through me, presented Plentex to National Development Company. So we should just pressing, these things because NDC, as we know, supports FDIs, foreign direct investments, just a kind of a PPP. But anyway, I think that the future bodes well. And so at this point, I think, we'll have to wrap this up. And we'd like to thank Neil and Vic a lot for this presentation. It's very enlightening. And we'd like to say that, the PAASE supports innovation, and we would welcome all kinds of inputs from you. Actually, on February 2, I hope to consult the PAASE regarding an innovation proposal that I'm presenting to the NEDA today. And we welcome position papers, white papers, and your inputs on barriers to innovation. And it looks like Neil has experienced some of this. you know, and
And,
and
and
then
he has overcome them.
yeah, he has overcome them, Tito. No, so
Yeah.
I think that then we would like to have you, all of our 16 presenters, Al, our candidate innovation proponents. Okay, and if not if the fund isn't too big, but then why not? Any fund is I think valuable, even if it's not too big. And then you could do it with PPPs, right? And already private investments. I think the 16 that we've featured so far are all potential candidates for us innovation fund proponents. So with that, maybe let us thank everyone.
Thank you.
One word from Al and then Neil, and then we'll end.
All
And
all I can say is
yes.
that, Neil, you have 3 investors who are ready to invest. Al,
Wow.
Very good.
Al,
I'll be waiting for your call.
Al, Giselle, and Chato. So your
That's
problem is solved.
Outstanding.
I was going to say that. I was going to PM Vic and say, how can I invest?
There you are. Okay.
Well,
This
look,
is a very
Vic is your
productive meeting.
contact. Vic understands the business very well. He understands the opportunity and has been pivotal in getting us as far as we have. So a big thanks to Vic, but also I have to recognise our chairman, Peter Stretter. He's been a real driving force in this. And then, of course, Michael McMahon, who is our man in the Philippines always. He's down there shaking the tree around Tacloban and Western Samar, and he's making the connections and, you know, riding the motorbike through the rain, actually, to get to where he needs to go. So, you know, all those people contribute to this. I'm just the man who's talking today, but you know, thank you all for your involvement. Thank you for your interest and engagement. And I have to say, maraming salamat po.
Salamat.
Thank you, Neil, for definitely taking the time to share with us your experience as well as your plans moving forward for the Philippines. And
it's a real pleasure.
looking forward to more activities and engagements with you and Vic, definitely. And again, feel free, guys, to connect with Neil on your own and have your private discussions. But again, thanks, Giselle, for organizing this tirelessly. And again, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Thank you.
Hey.
Okay. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.